We visit, of course, theater in the
Well,
outdoors.
you could
at
say that
Timberlake,
I'm rather kind of a actor too. I don't know.
No. Again, Dave Harrison of the Whiteside County, and we're visiting with him. They are back and louder than ever.
Finally, the cicadas have arrived. Not at my place, and I live in kind of a wooded area. Haven't seen one, haven't heard one out there. But about 9 miles just to the south of me, there's a woodlot on a farm I work on that you get within 100 yards of that thing, you can't hear yourself think. It's that loud. And we use UTVs out there instead of trucks because of the trails and that. And if you keep the windshield open, you literally have to dodge cicadas and wear safety glasses. The guy I work with got one in his ear the other day. He was using a chainsaw and he didn't have his muffs on, and it flew right into his ear.
Oh, no.
He's going, oh, geez, yanking it out. But they are around. I was down by LaSalle. I come from LaSalle County in Illinois. That's where I was born. And we were coming down the river valley, the side of the valley, just above the Illinois River. And we had the radio on, the air conditioner on, and the windows closed. And it was so loud, you could hear right through the windows. So it's in selected spots. And it doesn't surprise me it's around timber because in the larval stage, the cicadas do feed off tree roots and debris in the soil.
I have to agree with you. I've not really heard
I
them.
know, and everybody's telling me, well, where are they? And I said, well, you just have to find the right wood lot or the timber, and they're there. They're red-eyed. They look like Martians, flying around, but they are around. The one thing I wonder, and I haven't had anybody really give me a very good explanation, I see a lot of people wrapping their trees, younger trees, and I asked the guy that was in the nursery business, he said, as well as I do, they don't have the adults don't have mouth parts, so they can't eat any part of the tree. But he said sometimes when they climb onto younger trees, they'll damage the thinner bark on those young trees. But he said other than that, he doesn't really see a point in wrapping them. But I guess, if it makes you feel good and you think you're saving your tree, hey, have at it.
Enough of cicadas.
Yes.
We got to split nitrogen applications.
Yeah, for our farmer friends, something to think about more so for next year, and it's always good to plan a year ahead. With the price of anhydrous and fertilizers, for the last 15 years, skyrocketing almost every year, it might not be a bad idea to look at a split nitrogen application. Instead of putting everything on in the fall and spring, maybe put a little bit on then and then come back and side dress, which means basically just going into the taller corn plants when they're growing and they really need the nitrogen and injecting it into the soil. It's more efficient way to supply the nitrogen, and it goes into the plant instead of into the Mississippi River too. So most fertilizer co-ops now have applicators. A lot of them will actually do custom jobs for you too. So something to think about, just use a split application. It's an efficient way to use your nitrogen. It keeps it in the field, which is really, really important. We don't want it going down to the tile lines into the Gulf of Mexico.
Good advice. Your next point, leave them alone. Who are we leaving alone?
Well, this is something I deal with every spring. There's a lot of young animals around right now. And a lot of people have a tendency, they get that, and I don't want to upset people when I say this, but a mothering aspect with these animals. And nothing meant by the mothering term, it just seemed like a good term at the time to use. But everybody wants to pick them up and cuddle them and protect them. Don't do that. More than likely, the mother is very, very close by, and if you move that young animal or a bird, you've probably doomed the animal. It'll die. And the mother's maybe feeding, doing something, and maybe the young one just moved away, and she'll come back and get them. The prime example, I've got a friend that works at a nature center over on the Illinois side, and about 2 weeks ago, a lady pulled up and opened the trunk of her car, and she had 4 raccoons wrapped up in a blanket. And he goes, well, what am I going to do with these? She says, well, I thought you'd take them. And he goes, well, we can't do that, ma'am. We don't have a license. The problem is when you take an animal like that out of its environment and put it into a different environment, they're completely lost. They don't have any guidance from a female adult animal to help them kind of get familiarized with the cover, and more than likely they're going to get run over, they'll get a disease, or there's another animal that's already there and bigger and meaner, and it'll kill it. So don't pick up young animals. You'll see birds around nests, leave them alone. A lot of times the female bird booted one of the chicks out just so she could feed it, and the other chicks would grow. So nature isn't always kind.
That is for sure. No doubt about that. Good advice, though.
Sure.
It's sorghum time.
Yeah, for those of you that have CRP or like to hunt and put in food plots, if you haven't got your sorghum in, you got to get it in pretty quick here. Soil temperature is nice and high. We've had some rains. There's still a little bit of moisture in the soil, and it's time to put it in. Most people, when they put in a plot of sorghum, it's for pheasant hunting or quail hunting, and it's a really great cover, plus it gives them some food too. Use a pre-emergent herbicide that's safened for sorghum, and make sure the seed is safened for that herbicide too, and get it in as soon as you can. It's high time. So.
Visiting with Dave Harrison, it's time to check your bluebird boxes.
Yeah, and I know I've had some issues over the years too. You always get sparrows, the English sparrows in them. And you can tell if there's a bluebird or a sparrow by the type of nest. If you look in the box and it's a really kind of a concise, compact grass bowl, that's a bluebird. Leave it alone. If you look in there and it looks like a garbage dump with feathers and grass and sticks and everything else, it's probably a sparrow. Get it out of there. And a lot of times they'll even pick up pieces of litter and put it in their nests. The other thing you might run into too are wrens. And if you have a wren in there, it'll be made of it looks like somebody packed the box with sticks, and that's their nest. I like to leave them alone. Wrens are cool little birds. They eat a lot of insects. What we do is we put up 4 or 5 wren houses right around our garden, so they act as like little insecticides for us. Without spraying, we've got insect control. But check them. The bluebirds still may be able to have one more hatch. If you take out a sparrow nest and close the box back up, you're probably going to be okay to maybe have a hen move in and get a late brood in there. But
Bluebirds are a lot prettier than a sparrow.
Oh, they are, and they sound so much better too.
Review your forest management plans.
Yeah, in Illinois, IDNR comes out and will look at your timber, and if they approve a plan that a consultant has made, you get your real estate taxes lowered, which is kind of nice. Those plans are good for 10 years. But make sure you've done something according to the plan. And what I tell landowners is keep a journal, document what you've done, how many acres you worked on, and the time you spent. And at the end, and I think in the 9th year, IDNR will send you a letter in Illinois and say, hey, your forest management plan is up for review. Do you want to continue with it? And you fill out a series of questions, send it back, and more than likely somebody from the forestry division will come out and take a peek and talk to you about it. If they approve it, you'll get another 10 years. But you don't want your forests or your woodlots to be reassessed as either recreational or as a subdivision. Your taxes will skyrocket. So just maintain your thing. And it's very easy. Maybe all you have to do is prune, do a little thinning. And I know you don't want to be out there right now because the poison ivy is about as high as your nose, and the mosquitoes and the gnats are out. But in the winter is a good time to do that kind of stuff. So just do something every year. What I tell landowners is divide the forest up into segments and work on a segment a year. And over a 10-year period, you can get a lot done.
Is this something you can help people with, Dave?
Yeah, I do a little bit of that. We have a fairly small crew, and if there's a woodlot over 10 acres, I probably refer it to one of my friends that has bigger crews. But there's several foresters around that, have crews that can help you too. If you're not physically capable or don't want to do it, you can hire folks out. You bet.
Up next, let's talk about volunteer opportunities.
Yes.
You always need volunteers.
Yeah, and the SWCD has a new employee. He started last week, and he's going to be covering a couple different positions, but I'm sure he would welcome some help if somebody wants to come in and do some volunteer work. In the past, we have had education help. People have come in and helped do with school projects, water testing for tile, and there's possibly going to be another water testing program starting too. That one of the directors is big in environmental testing, and he's thinking about instituting a pond testing too for landowners. So something to keep in mind. Spring and fall are probably the busiest times when there's a lot of volunteer opportunities with trees. but there's something going on usually all year round in that
Who are you
office.
looking for as far as volunteers? Young people who want to get into maybe this area, or
Yeah, either young people or retired people, either
Okay.
one. In the past, we've had a lot of retired folks that have come in, and, maybe once or twice a week they come in and spend 4 or 5 hours, and it really does help out. If you're more inclined to want to stay in the office, I'm sure there's stuff, you can do there too. But call the office and tell them you're interested in some volunteer opportunities at 815-772 2124 extension 3. It's been a while since I called that number.
why don't you give that to us one more time,
Sure.
Dave?
815-772 2124 extension 3.
There you go,
That'll get you there.
2124. Excellent, very
Right.
good.
Yep.
Check pond dams for burrowing animals and trees.
Yeah.
Does a tree burrow?
Well, it can. The roots can.
Okay.
If you've got a pond where you dammed up a ravine to back water up for a lake or pond, it's a good idea to once or twice a year to go out there and check that thing for burrows from muskrats, beavers, and woodchucks are the 3 big ones. But don't let trees grow on that either. If they grow, it's like putting mini burrows through the dam. The roots actually will go towards the water, and when they do that, that's a weak spot. And eventually the water finds those weak spots and it'll blow the dam out. So, in fact, I've got a farm right now in a little wetland that I know has a few trees, and I got to get out there and get those taken care of. But muskrats can be really bad. And I like muskrats. They're great animals. They keep marshes free of cattails, the whole bit. But they can also burrow into dams. And a lot of what happens, and I've done it too, I'm guilty of it, is when you make that dam, you take the fill right next to where you're going to build the dam. That's a really bad mistake. You need to go out further and take the fill and leave like a shelf there. The deeper the water along the edge of that dam, more than likely you're going to have muskrat problems. And I've even seen them where people have used rock riprap, and they get it into the riprap or they get underneath the riprap in the deeper water and make dams too, or make burrows.
Amazing.
So something to check.
Final point, and again, great to see you. We'll talk to you
Yeah.
again in July.
You bet.
So if you're doing a late summer or fall burn, get your burn permit application soon.
Yeah, soon. In Illinois, you should legally have a burn permit through IEPA. This is a great time to get the permits for those fall burns. And the office down in Springfield isn't real busy, and they can get your permit probably within 2 to 3 weeks. The thing I would caution people is make sure the address of the office you're sending it to is correct. I know when I left the SWCD office, we were filling out permits for people, and the address on the application was wrong. And there was probably a dozen permits that ended up in space somewhere. They never did go to the right office. And the people filled them out, and they sent them, and the guy said, well, I never got them. And look on the website. That's the correct address. Don't look on the application, though. So, but yeah, get those in. Like I said, some people do it without a permit. And, that's up to you. But if something would happen where the fire gets away, one of the questions the sheriff or the fire department's going to ask is, do you have a permit? So
I would imagine sometimes trying to keep those burns under control can be difficult.
you have to watch your weather conditions and the winds. That's really important.
Great to see you. We'll talk to you. I believe it's going to be July 9th.
Sounds right to me.
All right. Thank you, David.
Thank you.
You're listening to AM 1340 KROS, Clinton, Iowa.
FM 105.9.
and KROSradio.com.